I was happening. It's your boy Rico from StreetScores. You already know we're gonna do an entire breakdown on that Washington Commanders skunk on them Carolina Panthers, man. You know, position group by position group analysis. We're gonna talk about every single player position group, even including special teams. Of course, we got to talk about Jayden Daniels. I'm gonna have an injury update there for the little bit that we do know. I'm not even trying to clickbait you. We do have some updates from sources. Also, Marcus Mariota balled out in this place. Cliff Kingsbury, Dante Fowler, and Mike SAINRISTIL all dominated and deserved game balls. And of course, we are number 2 seed in the NFC. We're going to talk about all that and more. But before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Shouts out to all of y'all that pulled up to the live stream. Y'all know I live stream every single game. I will be live streaming this upcoming Bears game as well. But shouts out to all of y'all that pulled up, that left a like, that was in the super chat debating and celebrating. Everybody that donated, really appreciate y'all, and everybody that called into the call-in show afterwards as well. Really appreciate that. Let's go ahead and dive into this video. You know me, man. I'm doing at least two videos a day throughout the week. So stay tuned. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Let's get it. Adam. Man, trap game what, man? I told y'all they would be angry after the Ravens game. You even saw the mic'd up from I believe that was either Andrew Wiley or Nick Allegretti. I can't remember. It might have been Wiley. It was like from the Ravens game. It was like as it was ending before they went on to the half field while the Ravens were still running the clock out. He was just going up to everybody and was like, man, we're going to learn from this. Stay hype, be motivated, take your anger out on the next opponent and things like that. And they did just exactly that. A lot of people thought this would be a trap game. I came to this game knowing that they would be dead serious about winning this game, but I broke all of that down in my previews. I talked about how the corners on the outside will have to tackle for us to have a chance to stop their run game, and they did just that. I mean, there was so many parts in my preview video for this upcoming matchup that ended up happening was the reason that we ended up winning this game. So make sure y'all pull up for these preview videos before every game, because I'm giving y'all the secret sauce before it even happens. My whole thing is if the Commanders do this, and that, they will win the game, and they did just that. I mean, we had to be able to run block very well. We had to bounce back. We only had 52 yards rushing against the Ravens. We had over 200 again like we did against the Browns and the Cardinals each. Like, it was just a lot of different matchups out there where it's like, this is how you win the game. This is the winning formula. And I feel like we hit on all of those and more, and even exceeded my expectations. And that's why you end up winning 40-7. That's how that happens at home. Now, first of all, before we even get into everything, because you know we got to talk about Cliff Kingsbury and the masterful work that he put together today, and some advanced stats that came from this game that are even more amazing than you'd expect. But we got to get the injuries out the way. So first and foremost, Jayden Daniels got banged up. He was checking on his ribs and everything like that. From what it seems like it came from the long run that he had, and then we ran like a couple of extra plays after that, and you could just kind of tell that Cliff Kingsbury told him, hey, don't force it. Let's see, you're in pain, but I know you want to go back out there. I prefer if you sit down type of thing, but you seem like you want to go back out there. So he let him go back out there, and you could just see from Jayden Daniels, any type of defender getting near him, he would just fall to the ground to not even take a chance of getting hurt even more. And I respect that, man. Good job by Jayden Daniels there. Shouts out to Cliff Kingsbury for at least giving his quarterback a chance, but even Jayden Daniels knew he couldn't do anything. He was thrown on the sideline, and like he was in such pain, so much pain trying to throw the ball. He could just tell that it just wasn't going to work today. Hopefully he'll be ready for the Bears game. We're going to get to that soon. But yeah, at a certain point, he went into the blue medical tent. Then he went back to the locker room. I mean, and he slammed his helmet on the ground before he even went into the locker room. So you could just tell he was just really upset about the situation. He really wanted to play in this game. So he was just through. He was just like, man, whatever's causing him pain, he was so upset that he slammed his helmet. But the fact that he even could slam his helmet lets me know that he's at least healthy enough to, like, I mean, not that bad off, because, you know, typically, like, if you're really hurt, you're not trying to move that much. He, like, took his helmet up and slammed it down. So it must not be as bad as a lot of us feared just off of that alone. And then plus we had other signs as well, because after he came out from the locker room, he was there for a long time, but when he did, he was in his street clothes, of course, but he was out there moving and laughing, and like he wasn't even walking gingerly, he was walking normally. Even post game, whenever I was watching, I literally said it during the live stream before everybody even got to have to the midfield to dap everybody up and everything like that. while Jayden Daniels was still on the sideline, I was like, all right, I'm going to watch this little ending right here after the game is over because I want to see what type of dap Jayden Daniels gives out, because if he's only doing like dap ups and keeping his distance, maybe he is pretty hurt. But he went and did like the dap like super grip hug to Bryce Young, so maybe the injury isn't that bad. And I feel like at a certain point it was just like the lead is so vast and there's just no chance of the Panthers coming back. There's no reason to throw you back out there, so I'm fairly optimistic that Jayden Daniels should be good to go. But I think we just got to see. I'm going to keep y'all updated on everything. And then even at a certain point, Brandon Coleman went to the Blue Medical tent. He was evaluated for concussion, and then he ended up being ruled out for that concussion. So that's something I'm going to keep y'all updated on throughout the week as well. And shouts out to the entire team for stepping up, man. I mean, Marcus Mariota as far as quarterback and Cornelius Lucas as far as left tackle, but just the overall team. Jayden Daniels gets hurt that quickly, and then even just Austin Cyborg making every kick, and just the complimentary football from all three phases, special teams out there hitting people to the point that they're fumbling. We didn't recover, but still, like, the defense balled out today. Now granted, it's a bad Panthers offense, but they were known as one of the better running offense in the NFL. The defense stifled that. The offense was still explosive and efficient even without Jayden Daniels. Shouts out to everybody that stepped up. Now you had Jayden Daniels' mom herself around like 5 p.m. or something like that say that Jayden Daniels is fine. She tweeted literally, he's fine. I'm assuming this is a situation similar to how Adam Peters texted a player's parent earlier this year. May have been Austin Eckler, may have been Cleveland Farrell, but either way, there was a story that came from Grant and Danny that said from behind the scenes, like, he heard some things about Adam Peters texted a parent's player after he got hurt and texted him that he's fine, like, directly. Just literally had the number of the player's dad and let him know, like, don't worry. I know, like, as a team, we're not gonna let, like, the outside people know very soon because we're trying to keep our hands close to our chest as far as, like, the cards that we have dealt and everything like that. But Adam Peters will go out of his way to make sure he texts a parent personally, your son is okay. And so I'm assuming that's what happened here with the Jayden Daniels situation. And then also, of course, Magic Johnson tweeted himself, I'm praying that Jayden Daniels' injury is not serious. Man, me too as well. Then you had Jeremy Fowler at some point, like later on, like 5:30 p.m. He said when asked about Jayden Daniels' rib x-ray, the quote he got back was exactly, he's good, unquote. That's literally it. Just, he's good. That is all the information we got from Jeremy Fowler. And so then, of course, Jayden Daniels was ruled out immediately after we returned from halftime. But I'm thinking, again, that was more so because we didn't need him than, like, I think it was more indicative of the score than, like, how serious Jayden Daniels' injury was. That's just me personally. I could be tripping. Then you have Ari Marov. He pointed out the fact that Jayden Daniels' ribs would not return in that game. That was, like, the official announcement where I saw it first. We were up 27-0 when the announcement was made. So, again, that kind of goes back to my point that I think it was just more so because we were dominating and we didn't need him to anything else. But we'll see about this Caleb Williams versus Jayden Daniels show out that's about to be next week. But again, he came out in street clothes. He was smiling and everything. We also had a certain point in that game where wide receiver De'Ami Brown had a noticeable limp while he was walking. Tyler Biadasz was holding his hand at a certain point. So the team was pretty banged up, but I think De'Ami Brown and Tyler Biadasz ended up okay. I believe they finished the game, but of course I will keep y'all updated on those injuries as well, along with Jayden Daniels and Brandon Coleman, of course, throughout the week. Like, as soon as tomorrow, as in Monday, I will have y'all updated on that. As soon as we find out, y'all will know, because I will put y'all on as soon as I find out as well. So, of course, we're hoping that Jayden Daniels will be okay, but I know CBS right now, the entire NFL, but CBS specifically, who flexed that game from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. so everybody could watch Jayden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. I know that they really hope that he's healthy as well. But honestly, though, do not do the RG3 situation. If he's not ready by next week, don't even play him. It's not worth forcing him long term. This season is bigger than just a matchup between the first overall pick and the second overall pick. Of course, we all want to see him go out there and ball out and beat him, but especially because of the way that Bears fans have been acting this season. But hey, man, I think most importantly, make sure he's healthy for the long run, because this is a playoff team, point blank period at this point. We know that by now. But also, for those of y'all that are blaming Cliff Kingsbury, I completely agree with my boy Mark Bullock. I thought of this live during the game, but I also feel like he worded it in a very well. And so he said on Twitter, replying to a couple of other people that were tweeting at him, he said That called play got him 50 yards down the field untouched. People are too worried about the quarterback run game, in my opinion. It adds so much to the offense, and as long as the quarterback reads things well and protects himself when he keeps it, it's a perfectly safe scheme. That's a good point. He went untouched for 50 yards. And then he also added, you can debate the inverted stuff with the quarterback keeping the ball between the tackles. I know a lot of people hate the quarterback draw stuff, but those are typically called with an out for the quarterback to get to if it's not a premier look for him. But the basic read option stuff is perfectly safe. I completely agree. Do not blame that on Cliff Kingsbury at all. Speaking of Cliff Kingsbury, he balled out today, man. Absolutely balled out on that play. He had 21 personnel. That big Jayden Daniels run, great play design, great everything except for the fact that Jayden Daniels got hurt at the end of it. But man, a 47-yard run. Austin Eckler had a great block out there. It was a beautiful play, man. Absolutely beautiful. And Jayden Daniels had his moments, man. Even after that, he still looked pretty dynamic, but then eventually they just decided it's time to pull him. It's not worth it. He was in too much pain. But just to remind y'all, last week we ran for 52 yards the entire game against the Ravens. Today we ran for 74 net yards on just the first series alone, and that wasn't even the finish of the series. By the end of the series, we ended up with 10 rushes for 88 yards in just one offensive series. That is crazy. Daniels had 5 rushes for 50. Brian Robinson had 3 for 20. McNichols 1 for 9, and Austin Eckler 1 for 9. That is absolutely insane. We did to them boys. 10 rushes for 88 yards off the bat. And also, I love the fact that we kept up tempo a lot, especially while Jayden Daniels was in the game. Immediately first drive, up tempo. Don't let the Panthers even catch their breath and adjust to what we're doing. And then they got us to a certain point in the game. You could just tell Cliff Kingsbury, even with Marcus Mariota in the game, was just having fun. He was just reaching in deep corners of his bag that he never reached in before, and just having fun, kind of playing with his food, essentially, just doing stuff that was sort of disrespectful to the Panthers defense. And then on that final offensive drive that resulted in a touchdown before the half, masterful work by Cliff Kingsbury, man. 6 of those plays were no huddle, and even the touchdown play, that was also no huddle. So that up-tempo stuff was really, really working for us. Also, John Kahn worded it perfectly. Washington lost its most electrifying player after his first series, and the Commanders still were up 27-0 at halftime. Carolina is bad, but this is still very impressive, man. And so the offense was still looking unstoppable even without Jayden Daniels, and that is a huge testament to how great Cliff Kingsbury has been this season, man. If you're still doubting him, I don't even know why at this point. And then that Ben Sinnott touchdown, the play design, it was pistol formation, RPO. It was a quick pass to the tight end, as in Ben Sinnott in motion. I mean, it was absolutely insane, the design of that play right there. Real creative. How do you stop that offensive stuff, man? Poor Panthers defense, man, especially with all the injuries they have. Man, poor them. Just to let you know, after Marcus Mariota took us to 3 and out a couple of times, he had went on a 4-drive streak of touchdown, field goal, touchdown, touchdown. That is absolutely insane. And up to that point, we were up 34-0. That offense is just so powerful. Even when you lose your starting quarterback, very powerful. And then in the second half, Cliff Kingsbury's bag got even deeper. And I really want to emphasize King and Kingsbury. I always try to capitalize those 4 words specifically if I can, because he's balling, man. Shouts out to him for putting up a double-digit 7-minute long scoring drive to get out of the game as quickly as possible at a certain point. Also, shouts out to Grant Paulson for pointing this out. Take a bow, Cliff Kingsbury. Second 40 burger of the season. Should have had more than that. Easily against the Browns we could have, but we sat Jayden Daniels to keep him safe early in the fourth quarter of that game. Also, third time hanging 38 plus on the year so far. That's including the Bengals game as well. 4 straight passes up to 37-7 steam. Daniels exits and an offense still hums. Mariota 18 of 23, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns as a backup quarterback. 407 yards total, 7 yards per play, and Terry McLaurin 6 catches for 98 yards, man. Cliff Kingsbury deserves all of the credit. Putting up a 40 burger against a backup with a backup quarterback is absolutely insane. Also, the Commanders lead the NFL in scoring with 218 points right now. No team has outscored their opponents by more points than Washington this season, with 66 as far as a point differential right now. I mean, this is insane stuff. And there's a strong argument to be made that Cliff Kingsbury is the best offensive coordinator in the NFL this year. I mean, check this out. Again, best point point differential in the NFL right now. You have the Commanders number 1 with 66, the Bills second with 63, the Lions third with 62, even after the way they did the Dallas Cowboys last week. The Vikings 61, then the Bears 47. It's like a huge drop off from the Vikings to the Bears, and then everybody else is kind of jumbled together. But right now, your elite offenses are the Commanders number 1, Bills second, Lions 3, and then Vikings 4. But this is point differential, so this is like great offense and also pretty good defense. We'll talk about them later. And right now, man, I'm screaming, please stay long-term, Cliff Kingsbury, man. Please don't let this just be a one-and-done year, man. I beg you, dog. And Dan Quinn even admitted in this post-game interview that the offense has 2 different play call sheets for Jayden Daniels and a separate one for Marcus Mariota. So 2 play call sheets, 1 for each of the quarterbacks, and that is very smart on their end of everything. Now, moving on to the quarterbacks. Of course, Jayden Daniels had that big-time run for 46 yards. It looked like, honestly, he was destined to go like 80 for a touchdown, 90 for a touchdown. It would have been so lovely if he would have ended up getting a touchdown, because most importantly, he wouldn't have gotten hurt, because he got hurt on that tackle from what it looked like. Also, Jayden Daniels, even though he came out immediately after the first drive of the game, Jayden Daniels moved past Harry Gilmer for number 3 in the franchise history for rushing yards by a quarterback in a single season. Daniels currently has 375 rushing yards this season. The single season franchise record of a quarterback is 115. I mean, after an injury like that, maybe Cliff Kingsbury doesn't want him to even try to break that record, but we'll see. And then Marcus Mariota came into the game, man, and it was ugly early. It was ugly early, and we're going to talk about it because he balled out, and I can admit where I was wrong on Marcus Mariota, because I was screaming Jeff Driscoll after Marcus Mariota overthrew Dyami Brown for what should have been like a 30-plus yard gain on 3rd and 15. I mean, we went 3 and out immediately the first drive that he came into the game. I was screaming, where's Jeff Driscoll? Then the next possession, he got bailed out by a pass interference on a severely underthrown ball to Noah Brown. So now, even as well as Marcus Mariota balled out, can he hit the deep ball? I'm not too sure about that. Then we ran with like B-Rob like 3 or 4 times in a row, and it ended in a touchdown. So it was basically like keep the ball out of Marcus Mariota's hands for a while until he figured out that he can learn how to play football and that he is a backup quarterback at the NFL level. You need to be ready. And then great play calling from Kingsbury to get Marcus Mariota to use his legs more and his arm less, like until he got warmed up, because he was 0 of 3 when he first got into the game on passing. Very inaccurate, just missing guys, throwing guys late. It was bad, but he just had to warm up, because again, at a certain point in 3 drives, he had yet to complete a pass. That was really scary. And then somehow 2 of those 3 drives, we still walked away with points. We were up 20-0, even without him ever completing a pass. And so it was literally to a certain point, people were screaming, man, no more dropbacks from Marcus Mariota. Don't even ask him to scan the field and try to throw the ball. I mean, and you could just tell he looked like a backup for a reason. We were just hoping that he could just manage the game well, man. Just manage it. Just please manage it. And then at a certain point, he started to heat up. He made 3 great throws in a row, each of them for first downs. Like all 3 throws in a row were for first downs, the final drive before the halftime. Then he threw an incompletion, and then he had another big throw to Dyami Brown right after his only incompletion on that drive. And then the big time throw on the run to Zach Ertz for a touchdown, where he escaped the pocket and then ended up throwing it on the run. Perfect dot to Zach Ertz. Very encouraging there. I mean, he literally went from not completing a pass for 3 possessions total to balling out in the 4th possession that he had right before the end of the half. I mean, him and Jayden Daniels, they had to have done some type of Space Jam power transfer through a ball or something. Instead of it being a basketball, like it's like Space Jam, maybe it was a football where Jayden Daniels put his hand on the ball, Marcus Mariota put his hand on the ball, and then Jayden Daniels gave Marcus Mariota his powers to borrow for the rest of this game. I mean, literally, he looked like Jayden Daniels on that final drive before halftime, man. Like the way he was moving and throwing on the run and everything like that, accurate down the field, it was beautiful. I mean, the Heisman winner came out of that boy. Like that boy finally looked like a number 2 overall pick. Like, golly, I apologize, Marcus Mariota. And then, and also just to remind you, that last drive before the half was a 92-yard drive, 2 minutes left to go in the half, and I mean, the final 7 plays was crazy. He completed to Zach Ertz for 7 yards, then it was to Terry McLaurin for 18, then it was to Terry McLaurin for 15, then he had the incomplete pass, then Dyami Brown for 23, and then Zach Ertz for a 12-yard touchdown. Absolutely cooked, man. Shouts out to Craig Hoffman. Great point. He said that's great stuff for Mariota. Finally got some throws on rhythm, and then he used his legs to create. From a football standpoint, that's the best half of football this team has played since when? win, I don't even know what the candidates even are compared to that. I completely agree. And then halftime wise, Dan Quinn spoke to the media. He said, we get the ball back to start the second half, and we have to go attack them. Fantastic mindset from Quinn. All gas, no breaks. He did not want to come out of halftime flat just because we were up 27-0. He wanted to make sure we kept it going. And so the Commanders were up 27.5, and I mean, you could just tell we were going to go ahead and coast this to win. Incredibly impressive performance. We ran for 137 yards in just the first half, and Carolina only had 6 first downs in the first half. That is insane. Also, shouts out to Mason Kinahan for this. He said his halftime thoughts: hopefully Jayden's injury is very minor and he's ready for next week. Mariota has looked better and better as he's getting more reps. Defense is everywhere. Shout out to Luvu, Fowler, Forbes, among many others. And Brian Robinson in this run game needs to continue to succeed to keep this offense two-dimensional. And the Panthers are so bad. I agree with all of those, even including the Panthers are bad. Also, Daryl Green was honored and had his number officially retired during halftime, and I wish we could have seen it from like the live stream and live watching from the TV and things like that. But shouts out to everybody that was actually at the game and got to see it live. I know it was beautiful. I'm so happy that Daryl Green had his retirement halftime ceremony. They gave him an entire suite in the stadium, and they already took down the Sean Taylor statue thing that they had going on, so they're probably going to do something similar to what they did for Daryl Green. It's an entire room in itself, big room, entire suite, all commemorating him. It's so beautiful. And then shouts out to all of the Washington Commanders alum. I think I heard it was like over 40 plus burgundy and gold Redskins veterans over there. You even had the posse back together. They took a picture together, so shouts out to them, man. A lot of our Super Bowl greats were there. Also, I want to point out the fact that Daryl Green is now the 5th player in Washington history to have his number officially retired in Washington. Number 33, of course, Sammy Baugh. Number 49, of course, Bobby Mitchell. Number 21, Sean Taylor, and they're going to redo his enshrinement and how they honor him. Number 9, Sonny Jurgensen, and then, of course, Daryl Green, his number 28. Nobody else can ever wear that for the Washington Commanders. Then we came out of halftime, and Marcus Mariota proceeded to continue balling out. Great throws, great job using his legs to improvise until throwing, or even just using his legs to get first downs himself. I mean, he was just elite, especially on third downs today. Like on third downs, Marcus Mariota was unstoppable. And even just shouts out to Pro Football Focus for this one. Marcus Mariota on 15 plus yard throws in week 7, 91.5 passing grade, 7 of 9, 127 yards and a touchdown, man. Unstoppable. And how about quarterback efficiency? If you look on the screen right now, look at Marcus Mariota in quarterback efficiency in week 7. Only Jared Goff outperformed him. And actually, that's crazy because Deshaun Watson was actually having you could argue, his best game of the season before he ended up tearing his Achilles. But look at Marcus Mariota. Only Jared Goff had a better week 7 game than him. Now, granted, we still have Sunday Night Football. We still have a Monday night game as well. But so far, out of everybody that played Thursday and Sunday, from the 1 p.m. through the 4 p.m. games all the way up to 8 p.m., Marcus Mariota was the best performing quarterback. When you're looking at EPA per play with passes, rushes, and penalties, and also completion percentage over expected CPOE, which means that he was also throwing receivers open. It wasn't like just receivers were just wide open all day. He was doing a great job of getting them open with the way he was throwing the ball. So now are we talking about quarterback controversy? I mean, to be serious though, maybe even some trade bait. Also, Marcus Mariota finished with 205 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 132.8 and a 40-7 win. And shouts out to Dan Daly on Sports on Twitter for this graphic right here of all of the other quarterbacks that have stepped in, backup quarterbacks that have stepped in for starters and had big games for us. Of course, the Doug Williams one, man. Everybody knows that one. But even the Kirk Cousins one against Jacksonville. You have Kirk Cousins in 2014, Todd Collins in 2007, Patrick Ramsey in 2002, Trent Green in 1998, and Doug Williams in 1987. All elite backup quarterback performances, because the thing that they all have in common is that these are quarterbacks who threw for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and had a 100 plus quarterback rating, as they had to come in for relief performances for a hurt starter. Also, after the game, Marcus Mariota said, quote, "This is the best place to work," unquote, when talking about the Commanders. Also, shouts out to Jordan for pointing this out. Keep that in mind when thinking about where this team was from not only a football standpoint, but a cultural standpoint for most of the last 20 plus years. The times have definitely changed. When has anybody ever said that before Josh Harris bought the team? He also said, quote, "When you have a brotherhood like this, you'll always find ways to win," unquote, with an interview with CBS on the field right after the game. game. Also, Marcus Mariota said that he was worried about Jayden Daniels at first, and then he just had to lock in. He also said that Jayden Daniels is a good spirit, so that's a good update for Jayden Daniels. But most importantly, I'm assuming, I guess he's blaming those first 3 incompletions, how inaccurate it was the fact that, first of all, he just needed to probably heat up, but also he was just thinking about Jayden Daniels. So, hey, man, if that's true, that's a real homie right there. Also, after the game, you see Jayden Daniels smiling and signing autographs and things like that, so I think he's good to go again. I really wanted to pay attention to how he dapped up everybody after the game, and he went in like for a full-blown bear hug on Bryce Young. Like, he even held it. So I'm assuming the injuries can't be that bad, but that's just my personal opinion there. Moving on to the running backs. I mean, Brian Robinson put the team on his back for a touchdown drive after Jayden Daniels went into the locker room for x-rays, because he had an 8-yard run, then a 7-yard run, then it was the 29-yard pass interference by the Panthers. Again, up to this point, Marcus Mariota was not hitting yet. I still don't even think he had a completion yet. Then Brian Robinson had a 7-yard run and then an 8-yard run for a touchdown. That was literally the Brian Robinson drive. You can argue that this was the Brian Robinson game. He finished the game 12 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown. We didn't even need him to run the ball that much. Only 12 carries and still almost reach 80 yards is insane. But Brian Robinson was clearly missed by this team, man. And most importantly, today he looked healthy. I know we missed him against the Ravens, but thank goodness we put him on ice so that he could be fully healthy moving forward, because he clearly wasn't even against the Browns. We only gave him 7 carries for a reason. We didn't even play him at all in the second half, but he is definitely healthy now. I mean, we gave him the ball like 3 plays in a row sometimes. Like, we are not concerned about his injury situation. I'm surprised they even left it to be this suspenseful leading up to this game, whether he'll play or not, because he looked fully and perfectly healthy out there to me. Also, Brian Robinson has 6 rushing touchdowns so far this season. The 6 rushing touchdowns through week 7 are the most by a Washington player since Robert Griffin III in 2012, and the most by a Washington running back since Clinton Portis in 2008. And remember, this guy played only a part of a game against the Browns, and he missed the entire game against the Ravens, and he's still doing this. Also, shouts out to Austin Eckler and Jeremy McNichols, because they played really well as well. They played great. We are for sure 3 deep at running back, but Brian Robinson just stole the show in his return, so it's kind of hard not to only talk about him. Then wide receiver wise, I feel like everybody contributed. I mean, just to run down the stats, Terry McLaurin finished the game, 6 catches, 98 yards. Zach Ertz, technically, even though he's a tight end, we'll talk about him as well, but 4 catches, 40 yards, a touchdown. Olamide Zaccheaus, 4 catches, 25 yards, even though he did have that one drop that made me mad. De'Ami Brown, 1 catch, 23 yards. Noah Brown, 1 catch, 16 yards. Ben Sinnott, 2 catches, 6 yards, and a touchdown. Yes, sir, his first catch ever in his NFL career was a touchdown. He deserves it. Austin Eckler also had 2 catches for 3 quick yards that were kind of like blown up in the backfield and things like that. But everybody balled. Like De'Ami Brown, I saw improved route running today. Like on 3rd downs when we needed him most, like Marcus Mariota was able to depend on the fact that he would get open underneath, not just being a one-trick pony of being a deep ball threat. He can get open underneath now. That makes him so dangerous, because that's going to make it easier for him to do what he really wants to do, beat defenses deep, because they'll have to actually respect him underneath instead of just playing back, and he made them pay for it. Also, shouts out to Olamide Zaccheaus. That one play, it was 3rd and 3, 10 minutes and 20 seconds left in the 3rd. We were already up 27-0, and he did a great job of, like, it was 3rd and 3. The ball was thrown a little short of the 1st down, and he did a great job of like making the guy miss. Because you know, when you're running outside, the corner is the DB is trying to catch up to you. So he did a great job of like, we're running this way, and then as soon as I catch the ball, let me turn back this way. That's what Malik Neighbors kept hitting Michael Davis with over and over again, why he kept not being able to cover him and tackle him and things like that. And so good job by him to reach the 1st down marker on that one. But Terry McLaurin was routing up J.C. Horn. Like, there was one catch in particular where he had so much space on J.C. Horn just from a perfect route ran. There was literally nothing J.C. Horn could have done, man. Also, Terry McLaurin now has 454 yards through 7 weeks, man. He's on a pace for a career high. Let me break it down for you. Shouts out to Mark Tyler at Hogshaven for this one. After a very slow start to the season, Terry McLaurin is really heating up. Over the last 5 games, he has 27 receptions for 415 yards and 2 touchdowns. If he continues at this clip, he'll be on pace for 90 receptions, 1,285 yards, and 6 touchdowns. All but touchdowns would be career highs. Yes, sir. So even though Jayden Daniels went down, Terry McLaurin still balled out. That's a wide receiver 1 right there. Also, Zach Ertz, had a touchdown. Did you even think about the fact that that was his first touchdown for the Washington Commanders? It seems like he gets the ball a lot, and it seems like he also gets tackled at the 1 yard line. He should have been had a touchdown, especially against the Ravens. The one he didn't get against the Ravens was insane. I mean, he literally was at the 1 yard line basically when he caught it, and instead of falling forward, as big as he is, he fell sideways. But either way, he finally got his first career touchdown with the Washington Commanders, and he has now recorded his 47th career touchdown reception, tying Ozzie Newsome and Pete Retzlaff, I hope that's how you pronounce that, for the 18th most receiving yards, touchdowns by a tight end in NFL history. Also, shouts out to Ben Sinnott because his first career catch is also a touchdown at the same time. That is an insane stat right there. That is a bingo, did you know, or trivia that we can bring up later on. And if anybody deserved it, it was him, man, because he's been blocking his tail off all season. Even when Zach Ertz had a penalty today, John Bates had a penalty today, Ben Sinnott didn't have a holding penalty today or a false start like those guys did. And he finally got rewarded for just keeping his head down, being a lunch pail type of guy, and just only, like, all he was doing was blocking, not even getting targets. And then for him to step up and get a play like that, beautiful. And I mean, at that point in the game, we were up by so much. That's the type of stuff you can get away with when you're up 27-0. And then his touchdown got us to 34-0. But like, we were to a point where we could just start throwing in the rookies, the younger guys, the backups, and saying, okay, let's see what you can do. Also, tight end Zach Ertz and Ben Sinnott have both recorded a touchdown reception, becoming the first tight end duo to have a touchdown reception in the same game since week 10 of the 2013 season. That is actually really crazy. Also, offensive line wise, I mean, we can run through this really quickly because there's not really much to break down here. They were excellent today. Dare I say elite. Now, Brandon Coleman was starting and then splitting snaps with Cornelius Lucas like he did against the Ravens. So this was his second time starting, maybe even his third. Maybe he started against the Browns. I think so. But then Coleman got hurt, and then he was out for the rest of the game, concussion injury, and Lucas took over for the rest of the game. And outside of one Cornelius Lucas play where he got beat very quickly for a sack, the offensive line had one of their best games all season. Pass blocking and run blocking, all insane, elite stuff from both aspects. B-Rob can't have the game like that without the O-line blocking its tail off. Even the greatest running backs of all time can't do it themselves. And you know how a backup quarterback, I mean, like, how can a backup quarterback come into a game and ball out like that? Like, the O-line kept them clean. That's how. Thank goodness we are too deep at left tackle, especially, again, Brandon Coleman got hurt. Cornelius Lucas stepped in big time in his place, and then everybody else just balled out. Shouts out to Nick Allegretti. Shouts out to Tyler Biadasz, even though he did have a penalty, which I was disappointed in, but overall still playing like one of the best centers in the NFL. Samuel Cosmi balling out. Andrew Wiley, don't have to worry about him anymore. I'm loving what I'm seeing. Now let's move on to the defense. And now, granted, this was a bad Panthers offense with a lot of injuries, but holding them to 7 points only in garbage time once we basically started to sit our, like, that was the last possession that we had our starters in the game where they scored that only touchdown in the game. But you could tell people were making business decisions. You saw it before they even crossed half field. There was like a play where they ran the ball and Frankie Louvu, instead of like going in to make a tackle like he normally does, he kind of just like pushed the guy. Like, he kind of backed up and pushed, like, just falls to the ground and don't get me hurt long term. So you could tell these guys pretty much melded in after we got up to a certain point. And so, I mean, really, they technically, against our real effort trying to win the game starting defense, they didn't score any points against us. And a lot of teams that have faced the Panthers can't say that. So again, it's a bad Panthers offense with injuries, but a lot of teams out there still got points put on their heads by these same exact Panthers. I mean, they're not winless too. Let's not forget the fact that they have won a game. Because after Andy Dalton started for the first time or came into the game for the first time against the Raiders, they scored 36. Against the Bengals, they scored 24. Against the Bears, they scored 10. And then against the Falcons, they scored 20. And then they only scored 7 against us. Again, that was in garbage time. And just to compare us to the Bears, we scored more points than the Bears against the Panthers, and we allowed less points against the Panthers than the Bears did. So I just kind of want to be petty and point that out as well. And also, man, I mean, at a certain point, that first drive, we were complaining about the defense because the Panthers were moving. They were absolutely moving to the point that I was complaining. I saw people on Twitter. I saw people in the chat of my live stream all complaining like, man, this is terrible. This defense is coming out really cold and we cannot have that. This is before Jayden Daniels even got hurt, but it was still like, man, we're going to need this defense to play better to have a chance to not only just win this game, but we want to dominate. We ended up dominating, but like I'm just telling you, it was going through the mind of Commanders fans that first drive. And then it was basically time to delete every tweet we had about the defense before the Dante Fowler interception ended up being a 67-yard pick six. That was so beautiful. We were up 7-0 before Jayden Daniels could even touch the field. We had 2 defensive possessions before we even had 1 offensive one. That was also his first career interception, just to let you know. And of course, he returned it for a touchdown. So that's also, of course, his first pick six. Shouts out to Dante Fowler. I'm saying first because I'm hoping that he gets more, man. And Northwest Stadium erupted from people that were there at the game. They said the stadium was arguably like the loudest it's been in so many years, man. Also, very interesting though, a cable fell on fans at some point during, like, right before that happened, and then after Dante Fowler had the 67-yard pick six, pretty much nobody cared after that, because it wasn't like a serious cable or anything, like anybody could get electrocuted, nobody was hurt or anything like that, but just something I wanted to make sure I updated y'all on just before, like, other people bring it to y'all attention, and it's like I'm saying, like, non-Commanders fans bring it to your attention and try to say that our stadium is still terrible and stuff like that. The situation wasn't that bad, but it would be nice if they could just go ahead and get that under control. Any stadium problem, let's just go ahead and get that fixed immediately. Also, once the Panthers were down 7-0 after that pick six, I literally said that's an insurmountable lead for a team like that. They don't have enough offense. They don't have any run defense. They really don't have much defense, period. So once we were up 7-0 and our offense hadn't even touched the field, pretty much the game was over. Like, just based off of how the Panthers have played in previous games. Now, granted, it is the NFL, but really it's over once they're down 7-0, especially to a defensive touchdown. And I also said this in my preview video, another, like, told you so, I guess I could take claim of in my preview video before the game, so make sure you check those out weekly, was that I said that the Panthers are the type of offense to go 60 yards and get into the red zone and then throw a game-changing interception, and they literally did that the first drive. I didn't expect it for it to be that soon, but that's just who they are, and that's who they were today. Also, defensive back Mike SAINRISTIL, I mean, he balled out today. I mean, on third down early on in that game, I think it was the second defensive possession, like the one right after the Dante Fowler interception. They tried to run a slant on him on third down. He had great coverage, nice breakup. He was on Deontay Johnson at the time too, man. So we had a pick six and a 3-and-out the very first couple of drives of the game. That was really nice, man. And so at a certain point, shouts out to Ken Johannesson for pointing this out, with the leading receivers for Carolina were Dante Fowler and Emmanuel Forbes after Emmanuel Forbes got that interception. So that was beautiful. And again, defense had a dominant day. You could tell our defensive starters pretty much after we went up 4-7, they were done. Again, even before the Carolina Panthers scored their touchdown, when they still only had 0 points, when they scored that touchdown, a lot of our starters were still in the game, but you could tell they were just making business decisions. They mailed it in mentally. And then after we went up 40-7, you could tell our backups were in the game because Michael Davis was on the field. And I don't think I've seen him on the field since he got torched by Malik Neighbors against the Giants in week 2. So you could just tell they were pretty much like, we're done here. And even Bryce Young came in to play quarterback for them. That was crazy. Also, defensive line wise, moving on to them, Daron Payne had a pretty good day today. He made some big plays against the run. I don't remember him against the pass, but against the run, he was giving Chuba Hubbard a hard time at some time, especially when he was trying to run in like the A or the B gap Daron Payne's way. Also, of course, Dante Fowler not only had the pick six, but then when the Panthers were going for it on 4th and 1, he had an elite run stop for like a 3-yard loss. I mean, this guy balled out today, man. I mean, at a certain point, like, first of all, he had 2 sacks last week against Baltimore. Then he had a pick six to open the game, this game. And then just a couple of possessions later, he had that elite 4th and 1 stop. That was big time, man. Then later on in the game, he had a sack. So at a certain point, he had a pick six, a touchdown, which is included in that pick six, an interception, a touchdown, a tackle for loss, and then a sack as well. I mean, he was having an unbelievable game, man. And honestly, Jayden Daniels may end up, of course, he's not going to win Rookie of the Week since he's hurt. He only played one possession, even though maybe we could just outvote everybody else and still find a way to do it. But either way, Jayden Daniels will not win Offensive Rookie of the Week. But hey, Dante Fowler may win NFC Defensive Player of the Week, because I can't imagine too many people having better games than he had, man. And he finally, like, since he came to Washington, he finally started to live up to his draft. And this is another I told you so, because I remember vividly in the offseason pointing out the fact that Dante Fowler was coming off of his best statistical season last year out of his entire career. Last year with Dallas was the best career Dante Fowler had on like a per snap basis, on like efficiency, being extremely efficient. Every time he was out there, he was impactful type of stuff. So I was like, when he comes to Washington, Dan Quinn, that's just another year under Dan Quinn's belt that Dante Fowler will become better under his coaching and tutelage and everything like that, and setting them up to win. I was telling people, watch out, Dante Fowler may have a big impact this season. I didn't predict pick 6, but I kept saying that, and I remember vividly, like during training camp and OTAs and things like that, people in the comment section saying, stop overhyping Dante Fowler. He's not going to be that good. And so this is another victory lap that I can take right there. Because again, it's not even like, I'm not even saying I'm a genius. It's just that literally, if you watch the tape, if you look at the advanced stats, Dante Fowler had like the first season of his ever in his career that you could argue last year, where he looked like a top pick in the draft. I think he was like a top 3 pick in the first round when he came out. Now he's definitely looking like that so far for the Commanders this year, especially in a couple of games, especially these last 2 games specifically. But man, I'm just so happy to see him ball out. I care way more about that than I told you so. The fact that he's helping this defense play at an elite level is all I need as a thanks. That's all I need. I believed in you since the offseason, since we first signed you. I feel like I was more excited about the Dante Fowler signing than anybody else I know, and I'm just so happy that it's paying off right now. And then of course, he received the game ball. You know, Dan Quinn awards the game ball in the locker room after every victory. Dante Fowler got it this time. I absolutely love it. And really, the entire defensive line deserves big praise, because the Panthers O-line was their best position group. I said that in my preview video coming into this game. Now that's one where I look silly, because I was worried. I was like, okay, this Panthers offensive line, that's their best position group. This Commanders defensive line isn't necessarily a weakness, but we do have injuries to Jonathan Allen and Javonte Jean-Baptiste, and Cleveland Farrell only had like 8 pass rushing snaps against the Ravens, returning back from missing a few games as well. So we were banged up. We had to sign Jalen Holmes off the street. We had to upgrade Sheldon Day from the practice squad. Like, this was somewhat of like a makeshift defensive line here. Like, I mean, we just don't really have much continuity and chemistry here as far as the season goes. And then they stepped up big time. They made easily, to me, the Panthers' best position group look like one of the weaknesses. That D-line balled out today. So big congratulations to everybody, but Dante Fowler was the MVP. But shouts out to everybody that contributed. Everybody played a part. Everybody was setting the edge when we needed them to a lot of the time. That was a big team effort, man. Big team effort. Then linebacker-wise, first of all, Frankie Louvu had an amazing game again. That's just what he does, man. That third down sack he had, it was like 14 minutes, I think 19 seconds left in the second quarter. 3rd and 5, Frankie Louvu sent on a blitz. It immediately got to Andy Dalton for an easy sack to get us off the field there. That was amazing, man. Shouts out to him. And just to let you know, he has 4 sacks right now in the season. That leads the team. I think he's tied with Dante Fowler right now, or he probably still has more than Dante Fowler, because Dante Fowler only had 1 sack today. He had 2 last week. Did he have a sack before then? Maybe. I think Frankie Louvu and Dante Fowler are tied, but this stat came out also before Dante Fowler had his sack. I believe Frankie Louvu and Dante Fowler lead our team in sacks right now. And then don't forget about Bobby Wagner. I mean, today against the Panthers, and honestly, so far this year, you can argue Bobby Wagner's been the best run-stopping off-ball linebacker in the NFL, dog. But especially today, man, he made so many elite plays against the run. Like 3rd and 3, I think it was. He made a run stop for only 1 yard gain. But if he wasn't there, it's easily like a first down type of thing. I mean, just elite stuff from Bobby Wagner. When it comes to playing against the run, you can argue he's been one of the best, if not the best, off-ball linebackers in the NFL. And then Frankie Louvu. It wasn't just that 1 sack. He also had some tackles for losses today as well, making some elite plays against the run too. So, man, our 2 off-ball linebackers. Now, I'm not sure if Jordan McGee played today or not. I didn't notice him if he did, but Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner did their things today, man. Then cornerback-wise, Mike Sainristil is easily the MVP out of the cornerback room, but I feel like everybody deserves some credit. I mean, again, of course, Emmanuel Forbes had an interception. We'll get there soon. But also, Joe Wood Jr. came in with an interesting plan. I'm not exactly sure how this ended up going for the entire game, but like the first couple of series, you had St. Juice, no matter where Xavier, he said it is pronounced Leggett, so the Xavier Leggett was going, St. Juice followed him. No matter where Deontay Johnson went, Mikey was following. Mike Sanford still was following him. It seemed like we kind of just assigned guys like, you cover him, you cover him, you cover him. Those are your matchups today. If you win those matchups, we should win this game and we should dominate. And I like that type of assignment and the responsibility placed onto the corners. This is your guy. You take him out of the game. Also, shouts out to Noah McNogany. He stepped up big time. Mike Sanford still was locking up today, man. Again, he had that third down, the second defensive possession immediately after the pick six. On third down, he locked up a slant route by Deontay Johnson. Absolutely ridiculous coverage. Then eventually Emmanuel Forbes ended up getting his first interception of the season. And just to let you know, that's his second interception of his career. Shouts out to him. He still got beat in coverage a little later on, but man, great interception right there on that play. But I was disappointed with the fact that he kind of just fell down instead of like trying to get the pick six, because he was literally Mr. Pick Six in college. He set a college football record for it. Then he gets to NFL level and finally gets an interception. He's not trying to run it back. I don't know what that mentality was. I don't know if the coaches were yelling at him from the sideline, but for some reason he decided he didn't want to take that back for a pick six. But it wasn't just in coverage, man. That boy Mike SainRistil was everywhere today. Like I mentioned earlier, one of my biggest keys to victory was for our corners on the outside to be able to contribute in making stops on receivers, the running backs, whatever in the backfield line of scrimmage. Get off your blocks from these receivers and go make a tackle. Mike SainRistil at one point in the game fought through 2 blockers to make a tackle, dog. He has been worth every single penny of value of us drafting him when we took him in the second round, dog. Johnny Newton balled out against the Ravens. I didn't necessarily notice him today, but so far he seems like he's well worth the take that we got and with early in the second round. And then Mike SainRistil being the very next pick in that second round for us. I mean, worth every bit of value, man. Then you had Noah Benogany. He came down and made an excellent open field tackle on third down to force a 3-and-out against the Panthers. And I mean, I'm telling you, SainRistil, Noah Benogany, Emmanuel Forbes, out there doing their thing. There was a certain point in the game where those were like the 3 names that you saw in the field, and I was not seeing St. Juice for a little while. I'm not exactly sure how much St. Juice played. I didn't really notice him, which is a good thing. That means my Benjamin St. Juice wasn't getting abused like he was last week against Zay Flowers. But again, to give him a legitimate excuse, matchups make fights, and that's just not the type of guy he should be covering. He should be covering the Mike Evanses, especially if he can learn to get his head turned around. The A.J. Browns, he did a great job against him. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. But like the quick, super shifty, fast receivers like Zay Flowers, that's not him. That's what we're hoping Mike SainRistil grows into becoming, a lockdown corner for those type of guys. He definitely has the speed and agility to keep up with them, and he showed that today. But again, I don't know where Benjamin St. Juice went at some point in this game. I did not notice him on the field, but hey, man. Also coming back from halftime, Mike SainRistil continued the ball out. He had just a couple of possessions later, he had a great open field tackle, man. I mean, just Lord have mercy all over this game. Every couple of possessions, Mike SainRistil was making either a play in coverage or a great tackle in the open field on a running back or a receiver. And then, like I briefly mentioned earlier, Emmanuel Forbes did get beat on 3rd and 1 for a 29-yard gain, which led to the Panthers' only points for that game, which was really annoying. And then, like, soon after that, first of all, Mike SainRistil had another elite open field tackle to cause them to lose 4 yards on a passing play. But then soon after that, Benjamin St. Juice got beat on an outside run, and I mean, I was so mad. I was just so mad. I was like, man, I really wanted to shut them out, and I know our defense was making business decisions. They were more so worried about long-term health, but I really wanted to shut them out. And so one of the very few times I did notice Benjamin St. Juice on the field, he was literally the reason they were able to get that running touchdown. They literally ran to his side. He didn't set the edge at all. He was just basically standing there, and that's how Chuba Hubbard got that touchdown. But Mike SainRistil, you can make a fair argument that he was player of the game, dog. Shouts out my boy Pedro Smith. Make sure you follow him on Twitter and YouTube. He brings up a great point on Twitter. He said Mike SainRistil has gotten better each week. He has been a beast the last 3 weeks. Pound for pound, the best player in the draft, question mark. Hey, that's a fair argument to be made. Moving on to the safeties. I mean, Percy Butler, Jeremy Chin, and Quan Martin tackled very well today. I remember all Three of those guys vividly making some great open field tackles today and stepping up big time in the run. Instead of allowing a run play to be on like 2-3 yard gain, they they would make it a 2-3 or maybe a 5 yard gain, but it could have been way worse. It could have been like a 10 plus, but those guys were stepping up and filling in run lanes quite often today. And again, they made some elite open field tackles out on the outside as well, so I was loving it. Also, this is one of those things you got to look at the all 22 to really get a great idea of how great especially safeties are, but the corners as well, but really safeties more than anything else. But I'm assuming the coverage was great as well, because we know the tackling was excellent, but the coverage had to be good because we finally held the team's #1 receiver to very few yards. And I don't remember us getting beat for anything serious other than Emmanuel Forbes in that 29-yard reception on 3rd and 1. And that was just, he literally just got beat. There was a safety over the top, but Emmanuel Forbes gave them underneath. But Deontay Johnson, technically the team's best receiver, only had 1 catch for 17 yards. That's the best we've done against a team's #1 receiver all season. It took Jadavion Sanders to have a pretty decent game. He was their only hope in the passing game. He still only had 6 catches for 61 yards. And he probably only did that because he took his anger out on us for what my Georgia Bulldogs did to his Texas Longhorns. You know what I'm saying? You know, I had to include that somewhere in this video, man. We weren't going to go this whole video without me talking my Georgia stuff, man. Come on now. And Jatavion Sanders was the perfect segue for that since he is a Texas tight end. He probably just channeled some inner anger from last night and then took that on in the Commanders, even though, again, him being the leading receiver with only 6 catches, 61 yards, we can live with that. I think we'll win every game where we only allow the top receiver of that game to the most yards from any receiver that they have is 61 yards and no touchdown. I feel like that is an elite game right there from the defense. I'm so proud. Special teams, I mean, y'all already know by now, right? Like, do we even have to talk about it? Is it? I mean, honestly, moving on to the conversation about Austin Cyborg. We're talking Pro Bowl now. Because, again, his only missed kick was a blocked one. And I'm at this point, with the fact that he hasn't missed any other kick, I'm starting to think he probably would have made that one as well. It was from 50-something yards, but he's made like 2 50-something yarders, 2 or 3 of them this season already. So why would I not be confident that he would have made that one? Because all of them have been right down the middle as well. There's an argument to be made that Austin Cyborg right now, I mean, of course, his last name is Cyborg, but like I always say, for him to be this automatic, there's got to be some robot, some AI in him somewhere. But there's an argument to be made that he's the most accurate kicker in the NFL right now. Literally. I mean, only missing 1 kick and it was blocked. Come on, dog. And also, before the game was even over, at a certain point in that game, Austin Cyborg had kicked 13 points for us alone today. He scored 13 points for us, which moves his season total to 73. But again, I think he even surpassed that after that. But my point is, Cyborg is now tied with or past Mark Mosley for the most points in franchise history by a Washington player through week 7 of a regular season. Shouts out to all of the kickers out there. And then it wasn't even just him special teams wise. The entire special teams balled out. It started a little rocky in the beginning because the Panthers had a couple of good returns, but after that, they did their thing. We dominated in all facets of the game. Defense, offense, and special teams, because you had great returning from Eckler. I vividly remember one of his returns getting all the way up to like the 40-something yard line. And then we were also laying big hits on special teams. We even had a forced fumble by the kickoff team at one point. Shouts out to Jeremy Reeves for that forced fumble. It was like a hit with 9 minutes left in the third. He forced the Panthers receiver that was returning the fumble. But also Nick Ballard deserves a lot of credit for getting the carry to leave the ground. He went low, the carrier tried to go over him, and then Jeremy Reeves was right there with the perfect timing on a big time hit stick to make him fumble. We didn't recover the fumble, but still shouts out to special teams. They had a great day in my opinion. I mean, Tress Way barely got used today, so you know how that goes. Also, before we get up out of here, you know I have other people's reviews and some extra random thoughts at the end of the video. Random people reviews wise, shouts out to @Jayden Daniels MVP, that boy Brandon over there. He said, I really don't know how to feel about this blowout. I'm not as happy as I would have been if Jayden Daniels was the quarterback, but overall, the effort from the team has been there. Both the offense and defense can't be too upset about that. Now, as long as Jayden Daniels is healthy, honestly, the fact that we were able to do that with Marcus Mariota will make me even more encouraged about moving forward, because we know no matter what, we have 2 quarterbacks, I guess now. I mean, I never thought I would say this. I've been hating on Marcus Mariota all off-season and all regular season, but apparently we have 2 quarterbacks that, I mean, we can still win games with, even if Jayden Daniels is out for whatever reason. Shouts out to Kevin Sheehan. He said the offense is elite. Plain and simple. The Panthers are bad on defense, but Washington's backup quarterback is picking up where the MVP candidate starter left off. Love that they haven't changed their approach after JD's departure. Next man up. A-word kicking continues. 34-zip. 5-2 Bears next, and JD back potentially. Then you have Scott Abraham. He said, beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Washington absolutely demolished the Carolina Panthers today, and that's a great point because some people are going to say, well, it's just the Panthers. But again, like I proved already earlier, we beat the Panthers worse today than any other team has beat them in the NFL season so far. And then also, that's what great teams do. You play the opponent that's on your schedule. It's not like we could just switch the Panthers out to prove we deserve to beat a better team or anything like that. They're on our schedule. We beat them the way the elite teams are supposed to beat bad team. That's how it goes. Also, shouts out to Felix Tramel for this one. He said, quick thoughts on today's game. Dominating the bad team is a page turn for the franchise. I agree. The Panthers never had a chance. Mariota came in and the offense didn't change at all. He finally got into rhythm and clicked. Also, the defense dominated on all three levels. Forbes was good outside of that one play. And also, Daniels' injury is a concern. The speak around the locker room was if Jayden Daniels was needed, he could have played. Best case scenario, bruised ribs. He plays any fracture a few weeks, just to let you know. So any bruised ribs, good to go. Any type of fracture, probably out a couple of weeks. But again, Felix Tramel said in the locker room that it sounds like Jayden Daniels could have went back in if he needed to. Also, he finished his thoughts with, this team can win the NFC East, and I firmly believe that. Right now, we're still first in the NFC East, like I pointed out earlier. We're also the second seed in the entire NFC right now as far as the playoffs go. If the playoffs were tomorrow, where next week, we would be the second seed in the NFL right now. So it's not like just because we're winning the NFC East and that's the only reason we're making the playoffs because the NFC sucks. No, we're the second seed right now out of all teams in the NFC. Just want to point that out. Also, shouts out to Grant Paulson. He said the Commanders obliterate the Panthers 40-7. He pointed out the fact that we're 5-2 for the first time since 2008. We're 3-0 for the first time since 2005. In first place in the NFC East, tied for second in the NFC right now. We're elite offensively. We're improving defensively, well coached, and blowing teams out. I'm loving what I'm seeing right now. Also, shouts out to Rick Snyder. You know he does his Commanders flash grades after every game. Shouts out to him. I pretty much agree with these, man. You can't really. Quarterbacks A+, running backs A+, wide receivers A+, tight end A+, offensive line A+, defensive line A+, linebacker A+, defensive back A+, special teams A back, coaching A+, Daryl Green A+, weather A+, crowd A+. Let's get it, man. I completely agree, man. I can't disagree with any of those, man. Everybody played at a very high level. The cornerbacks definitely stepped up and surprised me the most. Between the defensive line and the corners, how well they played today surprised me a little bit. Everything else pretty much on schedule outside of the fact that I didn't expect Jayden Daniels to get hurt, and I also didn't expect Marcus Mariota to step in for Jayden Daniels and look that great. But I'm going to give a lot of the credit to Cliff Kingsbury there, but also give Marcus Mariota a lot of credit because once he started clicking, he looked really good. He looked good enough to where for any crazy reason Jayden Daniels can't play next week against the Bears, Marcus Mariota could probably even win you that game. Also, shouts out to not Robert Griffin at pseudo_RG3. He says, strange feeling having the best two quarterbacks in the NFC East. And hey, I ain't gonna lie, man. There may be a point to that. Marcus Mariota may be the second best quarterback in the NFC East, only behind Jayden Daniels. Now, I have a few random thoughts as well. Again, I really want to emphasize that this is what dominant teams do. They beat bad teams badly. Not just beat them, but absolutely drug them boys. Skunk. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, this is what playoff contenders are supposed to look like against high draft pick teams. We did what we were supposed to do. Don't let any fan base from any other team allow you to like them to take any credit from what we did today at all. And just think about it. Just remember that the Panthers were the true number one overall pick last year. Remember, the Bears had the pick via trade that happened over a year ago. But really, the Panthers were the number one overall pick team record-wise, and we were the second. And it's crazy how just in one off season and just 7 weeks of football, we are on two completely different paths right now in our franchises right now. Two completely different paths. And this starts with Josh Harris and Adam Peters, while our two franchises are going two completely different directions right right now, and we got to sit back and really just enjoy that. I know we played a bad Panthers team, but still at the same time, you got to look at that Panthers team like we were just the one pick behind y'all. It's not like this is a team that was in the playoffs last year. We were the Panthers last year along with the Panthers. And so, hey, man, we just had to separate ourselves, you know what I'm saying? Shouts out to LA Capone for that one. Also, I think the best way to gauge who may win between the Commanders and Browns, like I pointed out earlier, is to compare both of our games versus the Panthers. And if you look at it that way, we are the better team. When you compare our teams by mutual opponents, which is what other way can we do it, we look like the better team compared to going against the Panthers this week, just like how the Bears looked going against the Panthers last week. I felt like we looked better. But I guess we'll see next week. We actually get to play them directly, and that's who to really prove who's the better team. Also, now the Commanders are 5-2. We'll be hosting the Chicago Bears next week in Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Remember, that game was originally scheduled for 1 p.m., but they flexed it to 4:25 because they know everybody wants to see it. Also, I really wish we would have gotten a shutout, because if we would have, even though they did score, the Panthers scored their 7 points, but if we could have held them to 0 points, that would have been our first shutout since 1991, man. I really wish we could have gotten it done, but also I'm happy that we didn't sustain any long-term injuries from our defense to finish that game. I'm glad they made business decisions and brought the backups in at a certain point as well. Also, this is our third win of 20-plus points this season. I mean, we're just blowing out teams this year, man. Absolutely just obliterating these guys. Somebody please pray for our opponents, man. Especially if you're a bad team, you don't want to see the Commanders coming, because we're not the type of team that has the mentality of trap games. I told y'all weeks ago that we're not the type of team that's going to ever fall victim to trap games, because we have so many players, coaches, and front office guys that have been there, done that in every situation. Won Super Bowls, gone to Super Bowls as players, as coaches, every way possible. Just Super Bowl winning culture type of guys in multiple position groups on the roster, multiple coaches in the coaching staff, multiple front office members. So if there's any team that knows not to fall for traps, it's this one. And then, I mean, just Nick Allegretti himself, him and Andrew Wiley won Super Bowls with the Chiefs. I mean, just offensive line alone, like, we cannot allow this. We've seen greatness. We've been at the top before, and we know how to handle that success. Also, is it time to get active at the trade deadline, man? Is it really time to go ahead and believe in this team right now and go all in on this year? Because there is the factor that, you know, maybe we need to go all in on this year, because are we sure that Cliff Kingsbury may not leave after this season? I don't know, man, because he's going to get some job offers. I hope he just turns them down and wants to stay with us forever, man. I really, really hope so. Also, shouts out to Disco for pointing this out, because it's time to keep these wins going, because we have division play really soon. After this Panthers game, we play the Bears next week. Then it's the Giants. That's a division game. Then it's the Steelers tough game, but then it's the Eagles and the Cowboys in a row. That's 2 division games. Then we take a break and play the Titans, bye week, Saints. Then we're right back to division Eagles. Then Falcons, looking like a pretty good team this year. And then another division game in the Cowboys to end the season. Like, we played the Giants once, and basically up and until we play the Eagles November 14th, we've pretty much gone in half a season only playing our division, any division opponent once. And then we got to play the last 5 games in the last like 9 games we play of the season. So it is time to go ahead and put up these wins, because it's division ball. I don't care how bad you are, even the Giants, and you still got to, you know, treat them with the utmost respect and make sure you're on your A game to win those games. Also, Dan Quinn said that he does not have an official update on Jayden Daniels, but we will get more tests tomorrow, of course, and we will have a better update tomorrow, as in Monday. Also, just to let you know, Bears-wise, the Commanders have already opened as a 1.5 favorite against the Bears. We'll see if that changes throughout the week. Also, just to let you know, the Commanders are undefeated at home. Now, let's continue that against Chicago. Hey, man, them fans have been talking crazy. Them Chicago fans talking crazy Bears right now on Twitter, especially. They have been hating on us for weeks. It feels like Commanders fans are kind of just ignoring them. We're not caring. Maybe some people will reply to Bears fans, but Bears fans are starting all of the trash talk that's basically been going on between the Commanders and Bears, and I can't wait to shut them up next week. Also, I'm gonna be petty here, and we got to, because speaking of them petty little Bear fans, let's be petty back. No Rookie of the Week for Caleb. The 1 week that Jayden Daniels is hurt, Caleb Williams is on a bye week for the Bears. So congratulations. He may never win Offensive Rookie of the Week this year, and y'all are acting like y'all don't care about the award, but y'all were caring about it way more than even we did just a couple of weeks ago. Also, again, to remind you, the Washington Commanders are the number 2 seed in the NFC. I'm loving it. Also, there was from Pro Football Talk after the games via CBS and all of that, they gave a Jayden Daniels injury update. They were asked a 1 to 10 as far as level of concern. They gave a 3 or 4. And that's the last thing I'm going to say in this video. Do with that as you will. Jayden Daniels is a 3 or 4 out of 10 as far as injury concerned. Sounds like he's more than likely going to play against the Bears. But again, we got to wait till tomorrow, as in Monday, for the official injury update. And of course, I will have y'all updated on that. Y'all know me, man. As soon as it comes out, I got y'all. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content, man. I really appreciate all of y'all, man, for supporting the stream the way y'all did. If you made it this far in the video with as long as this video is, I appreciate you for that. Do not leave this video without leaving a like, and of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video, all of the different position groups that I hit everything spot on. Do you disagree with any of my takes? Let me know if you do, and let me know why as well. Did I leave out any stats that you felt like I should have included in this video? Give me all of your critiques, no matter even if they're negative, whatever, positive, whatever. I really appreciate everything, man. I just love it when y'all are active in the comment section, and I try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. This past week was really busy for me, so I'm about to get back onto these film sessions. I only got to do one last week. I'm trying to do like 2 or 3 this week, but I mean, last week was like a unexpected level of busy. This one, you know, this upcoming week is going to be my typical busy, so I should have more time to get these film sessions done. Make sure you stay tuned. Of course, do not leave this video without leaving a like, and I will have y'all updated on the Jayden Daniels injury as soon as anybody knows. I will make sure y'all know, so make sure y'all check out, come back to StreetScores. I got y'all. And of course, I'm working on like 2-3 videos a day all throughout the week, and film sessions for my exclusive channel members out there as well, exclusive only to y'all. Really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.